Every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Insanity runs in my family. Practically gallops.
No stems, no seeds that you don't need. Acapulco Gold is.
This is the most acid I've ever seen anybody eat in my life. Wow, man.
Fire it up, Holmes!
Why don't you get a job, Spicoli?
What for?
You need money.
All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. And now it's time for that feral hippie herself, an infotartic, esoteric, eclectic mix of the adventures of that feral hippie, Miss Mona Radler.
What are you people? On dope?
That was my skull! I'm so wasted!
Make a move and the bunny gets it.
Dave's not here.
All right, Mona, it's all yours. Take it away.
Do. It's a mad world. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Adventures of this Feral Hippie. And Goose, I hear you. Don't think you... Okay, whatever. I guess I spoke too loud. Anyway... Remember, you're at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, and Haggy Shack. So do know and remember we are listener-supported. This is the end of the month. Get to the home page and do the donate click now. We need to have your support. And don't forget the home page has those great heirloom seed packs. 3 different sizes now. Come on, grow your own, man. And that we have archives for all the different shows, because we have hosts everywhere and all kinds of shows, huh? What is it? Carrying stones and digging holes. Hey, Bridgette.
Hey, girl, how's it going? Hey, I want to thank you for having me on. It helps because every time I get radio time, it helps my nervousness and my stress of being in the public.
Well, then, okay, you're welcome. I just didn't want to talk myself today. And I know you have good conversation. And your show last Saturday was great. No matter what you felt, it was good.
Well, thank you. I tried to pull myself together. Yeah, it was major, operational operator malfunction. But
are you having breathing issues?
No, why? My volume might be up too high.
Well, yeah, I could hear you sighing, and it sounds like you're having a semi-difficult time breathing, because I know the chemtrails have changed up here. Oh my gosh, and the air, it just takes them away as quick as they have them up there, but I wonder what they're putting in them. I can't hear you at all now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It was barely, but...
All right. Well, I have a lot of anxiety this morning. I've been working on, for the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot of study on, human, but now I'm kind of studying animal vaccines, especially the ones dealing with dogs. And I think I'm pretty darn sure, I'm positive, that the powers that be are using our dogs and cats, giving them a whole assortment of vaccines these days that they do not need, and that these vaccines are contagious. They're contagious to other dogs and other animals, and they're contagious to humans.
Yeah, I've seen that, where rabies shows up in human blood tests.
Well, what's more crazy is, like the...
They only need one
cough.
injection or inoculation. They don't need them every year. That's one thing, too.
Right, but, the studies have found that when dogs were given the kennel cough vaccine and then they were, like, say, went to the doggy daycare or whatever else, or were exposed, because they said that there's a 7-day shed time, and they actually give the dogs the living viruses. But this is the other part, is a lot of these viruses are cultivated in other animals, grown. And I think quite a few of them are like manufactured or incubated in like cat kidney tissues. So if the cat has, cats are known to have viral leukemia. Like there's a huge amount, like 95% of people, especially kids that get leukemia, it's usually the leukemia virus from cats.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, I mean...
whoa.
Yeah, no, most cancers are actually viruses. I mean, most people don't even know that.
I know, right? And they think about it, the different blood types and things like that. Now, if the dogs are getting cat kidneys, what the hell is that doing to the dogs?
Well, they get viruses. They'll end up with viruses that cats have. Any kind of virus that may be stored in that cat kidney is going to also intervene, in the cross-pollination of the vaccine being developed. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the thing is like, say, for example, you end up getting kennel cough.
Well, they would suggest it was whooping cough, but go ahead.
Well, no, they are calling it, H1N1 or, and so the other
thing it's up to 5 now, I think.
Well, but, H1N1 is a pig virus.
Oh, yeah.
Asian bird flu is...
But it didn't come through the air, girlfriend. It came through being sprayed on vegetables, through the water.
Well, but now we're being given this stuff directly through, tick bites, the different kinds of tick viruses, the different kinds of bug viruses that came out of the paperclip thing when all of the
I don't doubt
Nazi scientists, and then they worked out at Montauk, Island.
But why would they think that they weren't going to have repercussions from this? See, that's the whole thing. What do they really think they're getting away with?
Well, but the thing is there's so many people that are damaged these days.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
I mean, we have hereditary chromosomal damage these days where, there's so much brain damage that people can't really even critically think or really understand what's happening.
Right.
And so the dog virus, now when they give them a vaccine, it's a 7 to 10 day shed period, which means that the live vaccine takes 7 to 10 days to run through the animal system. So the animal is contagious.
That makes me cringe.
Yeah, so eye fluid, vomit, saliva.
Kissing your face. See, that's why I don't want dogs ever kissing me in the face.
Urine, their fecal matter. So say you're pregnant. Well, this is the scary part. Say you're pregnant and you go get your dog vaccinated, and then you get exposed to whatever the dog's been vaccinated for, these viruses. And
how long would it take for the human body to try to fight it?
Well, it would show up, I think incubation period in most viruses in humans is 21 days.
Oh.
20 to 21 days. So you wouldn't be able to correlate it with where it came from.
Oh,
right?
Isn't that, oh my gosh.
And this is the other thing, Mona, is they don't, in the medical Western medicine, I mean, really the only two maybe test that they have for finding out if have a animal virus is the swine flu and the Asian bird flu. But they can't test. They don't know to test. They don't do testing for the wide panel of other animal viruses that maybe that your animals are getting through vaccines. So when you say you're pregnant, you might have like a major miscarriage if you get one of these, dog viral agents that are being given by vaccinations.
Well, there could be so many other health implications. That's sad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so it's really going to affect a fetus, right? You could have a miscarriage, or it could get serious chromosomal damage. Or if it's a toddler or a baby, and the baby could get, a major virus, that can kill it. Because the thing is that these are not human viruses.
Well, and then what if they do mingle with the human ones? Bridgette, because the children are so inoculated, it's like a total battle within each of those little physical bodies. That's disgusting.
Well, think about like with the animal bodies.
Oh, I know. Poor Preciouses. I never took my dog to the vet.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I
did do the organic flea stuff because there is good once a month organic flea stuff that isn't poison. And it's not putting it on the back of their neck. My poor dog, when I did that once to her, she just kept licking. I'm like, I don't like this. If she's tasting it and it's on the back of her neck, that's like wrong.
Well, I've seen dogs go into seizure. Do you have seizures as soon as they put the poison on the back of their neck?
Aww.
I know. But the thing is that, nowadays I'm just really kind of becoming more of an advocate that we, the people, we have to pay for them these people, the powers that be, whatever we want to call them.
All right.
To kill us, destroy us, maim us, starve us. Mm-hmm. And we pay them for that by paying corporations for their goods,
right?
Being forced by veterinarians to vaccinate our animals. When I think, like they were saying, a lot of the vets are coming out and medical researchers are saying that your dog should be vaccinated at 16 weeks, not 6 weeks. And that there are a huge amount of vaccines that they don't need, and that you just should really stay with the base vaccines.
Right.
And then stay away from these other vaccines. But this is the deal: is the more that dogs are put into environments. So in farming, in organic farming, we have, number one, if you had an organic farm and you were vaccinating your animals and they were shedding viruses on your land or shedding the antibiotics that you gave them, your land, one poo-poo or one pee-pee from a cow, a dog, or anybody contaminates your land for 3 to 10 years. So you would not have an organic farm. So when people want to complain about spending more money for organic food, there's a reason why it costs a lot more, because people have to figure out controls.
Well, we hope.
To manage viruses and, everything else that the animals on the land may contract or get, or, kind of a situation. But in farming, like organic farming, biodynamic farming, our specifics for just cattle are 1 cow per acre of pasture, right? So you look at all these other people who have like maybe 5, acres of pasture, and they've got, 25 cows out there.
Right.
So what happens is it's a lot like in human situations where you have a lot of, pee-pee and poo-poo. That
sounds like pre-K, doesn't it?
So what happens to the land if there's 1 cow more than 1 acre of grass pasture? That pasture can't process the urine and the fecal matter. So it becomes like sewage, and the animals are like living in the sewage. And that's where you get a lot of
mouth, all kinds of things.
Yeah, you get a lot of viruses. But then the viruses with poo-poo and pee-pee really start to go up the charts when you're dealing with carnivores. So humans, dogs, cats.
Well, you mean the more elaborate viruses? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that would come from, fecal matter.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right. So you have your grass, animals and their types of diseases. But once you start getting into the meat eaters, it really starts to go over the charts. And then you see this happening. Like you see like cholera outbreaks, which are, basically fecal matter in water and people drinking the water. So,
right.
If you're, say you're irrigating your pastures, and that water is going to have a little bit of runoff into main areas, you're going to get a huge amount of urine and fecal matter going into water supplies. I mean, right now, I had a friend of mine who was in India, and one of the things that she did kind of with her doctor stuff was that she had to go out to areas where they were having cholera outbreaks, where the people didn't know that, basically pooping in the water and then drinking the water was going to be a problem. And this could be like their animals, their sheep, their cows, or whatever else.
That's really interesting, but peculiar.
Well, yeah. So, and then she would teach them, how to keep the animals and stuff out. Well, now, if you look at commercial industrial farming,
no thanks, but yeah.
They allow a lot of their cows and stuff into the rivers, and nobody stops the cows from going into the rivers and stuff like that to get the water. But whatever's downstream can get also E. coli, from that as well. So I think when they had that, remember they had that, 5 years ago, that huge, I think, was it E. coli outbreak or salmonella outbreak that they had on all the spinach that came from a farm in Mexico, and then they found out that there was this huge cattle farm
right
upstream, and those cows were being allowed to go into the water, and they were pulling the water out of the irrigation system to water the spinach. So it became contaminated, right? And so, then it came to America, and there was, I don't know, quite a few people, I think, that got really sick and died.
I don't doubt it. I mean, so our immune systems have been so weakened, Bridgette. I mean, almost anything could create that kind of damage.
Oh, yeah. Every day. And going back to, the chemtrails and a lot of what Dane says. I mean, they're basically inoculating us with, or probably not inoculating us. Inoculating would mean that, we would have a immune system towards a virus, but they're spraying us with viruses. I mean, they've proven scientifically that they have found red dried blood, red blood cells, viral agents, serious fungus. So many people I know, a lot of my clients have fungus problems that they can't get rid of. A lot of them have it respiratory, esophageal, in their eyes, different parts of their body, in their ears.
Well, yeah, remember the Morgellons things?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a whole other nightmare. I mean, those are like nanoparticle worms that eat through your tissue and lay eggs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it makes you really happy to be alive, doesn't it?
Well, out of all the places I've been, and seen other planets and stuff, this place is hell. I mean, Earth is hell.
Well, that's sad because I see good in hell.
So. Well, I think people are used to what they're used to, right?
Well,
and then they adjust. They adjust accordingly.
Yeah, well, it's wrong.
It is
everybody's fallen for the same structure of an idea that's just out to annihilate us. What the heck sense does that make?
Well, yeah, I know. But the thing is that it's up to each individual. I mean,
right.
I know a lot of people who her heads are buried in the sand. I could give them tons of scientific data on the,
repercussions.
Horrible things that happen through vaccinations, whether it's children or babies or, I've been in Western medicine. I've seen what they've done to newborns, as far as getting blood from them and all kinds of stuff, which is like the most horrific thing ever.
Stealing the placenta is what pisses me off.
Oh, yeah. Just the whole thing. And then the animal vaccines and the chemtrails. And I can provide people with so much information about why, maybe get the basic vaccines for your dog when it's 16 months old, but then, this is the other part. You can't be just taking your dog to the dog park. So if you got a dog that you're going to take weekly to the dog park, or you take it to doggy daycare, It's that herd thing. It's the same thing as all those cows on, a small acreage of land, and the land can't heal it. And I mean, think about a whole bunch of animals walking through basically stains of, fecal matter and urine that are constantly there. If you've got like 50 dogs in one location.
And everything goes through their nose.
Yeah.
And their, tongues.
Yeah, so they're going to pick up. I mean, when something's shedding a virus, that virus is everywhere.
Sad. I'm so thankful I own a goose. Well, I mean, I don't own her, but I'm helping her. Or him, because it hasn't laid any eggs in 3 years. So I think it's actually a him.
It probably sounds like it's a him.
It's a goose. No matter which, if it's male or female, it's still a white, frilly, feathered goose.
So you can provide all kinds of information to people. Like I have people call me because I do traditional osteopathic medicine on animals, and I go out and look at them, and I'll tell them exactly what's going on with the animal, and they just won't, even consider the information or research it on their own, and they'll go ahead and keep doing what they're doing, and then the animal gets really sick and dies, or and then they want to blame somebody else, their neighbor, or they think, they make up all kinds of stuff except for faces.
But we can't change that, so you can't get too upset about it. But yes, I get the drift totally. The woman I'm staying with now doesn't want to hear any of the derogatory. I'm like, how is truth derogatory? It would be your state of mind and how you accept it or not. And like you said, most people don't want to accept it.
Well, they can't critically think because they haven't developed both sides of their brain to be like, one of the first shows that I remember watching when I was a kid was Sesame Street. And my favorite show, well, the aliens were one of my favorite shows. Yip, 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 yip. But the other one.
Cookies! Oh, pardon me.
The other one was that, like those songs like, which one of these things doesn't go together? Which one of these things doesn't belong? And I like that kind of stuff, like, wow, yeah. And that's critical thinking.
Right.
Does this make sense?
Well, they probably don't even put that out there now on Sesame Street.
Yeah, I don't know, but they don't teach.
I love Mr. Rogers. He would do that too.
And, maybe this is the thing is when more of us grew up in the country, grew up on farms and ranches and things like that, we had the ability to critical think because we had to figure out what was wrong based on what was going on in the environment. What's the animals telling us? What's the land telling us? What's the sky telling us? What are all these things telling us? And then have to come up with a scientific, thesis based on, this is what's going on, and we speculate that this is what's happening. And then you have to go along with trying to figure out solutions.
Right.
And people don't have that now. There's no actually life experience of...
Yeah, it's been untaught. Yeah. I made sure my children knew that kind of stuff because I didn't want them going out there in society and getting lost.
Yeah.
That's just... Oh, my. Makes you wonder how we've gotten this far.
Oh, Lenny just told me I'm a terrible singer, basically.
Oh, Leonard. Should we call him Leonard? All right, Leonard.
He said might not plan on the singing.
Oh, anyway. We're allowed. This is my show.
Yeah.
I allow singing.
As long as it's not karaoke, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, so... these whole vaccine things with the dogs is like pretty serious business, and people really need to kind of figure it out because otherwise they're giving family, their kids, and themselves viruses that if they do come up, I'm kind of suspect. I have a client that decided to take her dog, who's an amazing dog, to doggy daycare, and so she had to get him the kennel cough vaccine, and then a couple months later, she got super sick. She got super cough, respiratory, like way off the charts. She had tons of like muscle aches and pain. She couldn't get out of bed for and she went to the doctor. But, now I'm starting to realize like she probably got a dog virus. She may have even gotten kennel cough in a human form. And then, they gave her, different meds to kind of combat it or whatever. And then they, said that she had, I forget what they said she had, like maybe strep or something.
Oh my.
But,
because they couldn't really tell her. That's why they put that classification.
Yeah.
Creeps.
So the thing is like, we have to be really careful, because what if, the infant gets something that the doctor is not going to be able to figure out what it is, like a kennel cough, and a human barely survives it.
You mean adult?
Adult human. Sorry.
That's okay. No sorry allowed on my show. That's right. You remember that. I agree with you. This is damning.
Me out. It totally, once I saw that humans were getting some of these viruses, and it's the same thing as like, it seems like veterinarians have followed the same path as Western medicine. Like they've been corrupted.
Yeah, no doubt. It's all corporation. It's all pharmaceutical.
You spend $400,000, $200,000, whatever it is, to get through medical
quick.
school.
We got our first break, darling. Mute yourself, and we'll be right back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
What the heck is the truth jihad? Hey, I'm Kevin Barrett, host of Truth Jihad Radio. Federal prosecutors, Department of Homeland Security agents, and curious passersby often ask me, just what is this truth jihad thing anyway? Well, everybody knows what truth is, but jihad is a misunderstood term. Jihad means effort or struggle. The greater jihad is the struggle to be a better person, while the lesser jihad is the struggle to defend the community. Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, did say that the best jihad is a word of truth flung in the face of a tyrant. And that's what we do here at Truth Jihad Radio. Every Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific, right here on Revolution Radio.
We talk about decentralization and bank annihilation. Bitcoin, Litecoin, MyCoin, your coin, blockchain, baby. Mondays at 1600 hours Eastern, Studio A.
Find some comfort at Willow's World. A variety of news, commentary and poetry at Willow's Poetry Corner, where there are comfy cushions and a tempting selection of delectable comestibles. A show that's quirkily and quintessentially British, with a unique twist featuring Willow Andreasen, your host. Join Willow, Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. EST, Studio B.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, welcome back. Yes, we are here. So, Bridgette, since so much of it is viruses, Have you come up with some kind of interesting conclusion on how to help the body recognize that it's more of a foreign matter? Like, enhance our immune systems or something? I mean, this is damaging. Very sad. I can't.
It is damaging.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, like, I think it's going to be, in order to stop a lot of this stuff. I mean, we're gonna have to spend years of coming up with. I don't know. I'm not really sure how you're going to fix, like 5 generations of chromosomal damage.
I know, right?
Or DNA or, RNA damage from everything that we've been involved with. I always talk to people about, we just have to stop paying these people. You fight with your veterinarian. Your veterinarian just thinks that you're easy and you're going to be kicked back and you're going to pay them, hundreds of dollars every year. You should ask them for some natural stuff. You should go more towards the homeopathic veterinarians, right?
Right, exactly.
Or people like me, I think I'm the only traditional osteopath, which means that I'm a non-medical DO. So basically, traditional osteopaths were around. I mean, we're in every type of old, ancient type of medicine. A lot of us deal with energetic medicines, and a lot of us deal with how the structural, physical structure needs to operate in order to have ultimate health and also be able to fight disease and whatever else.
Right.
And then, so we were, I studied with a lot of people who were really, really old school. And then when the AMA came around, I don't know when they started making a school for doctors of osteopath. I know in Europe there's some traditional ones that are DOs, but in America a lot of them actually are surgeons. So they do the corrective work by doing surgery. So that's kind of like the difference. Like what I do is ancient and what doctors of osteopathic do is recent.
Well, it always makes me think of that Star Trek movie that Bones, the doctor, says, they're barbaric. Because on Star Trek, they use all vibrational medicine and healing. They don't use inoculations and stuff like that. At least what I noticed.
Yeah, but the other thing, too, I'm not a big, Star Trek fan. I really hated, Star Wars. It's just not really my thing.
Well, Star Wars is a bit much, but Star Trek was cool. I love Star Trek.
But any of those kinds of, space age things are just really not my idea of a life.
Arthur C. Clarke was helping. He was giving the answers for so long ago, you know what I mean?
I totally think so. And I like their psychological approach to everything because, there'll be like this major thing that goes on and then they have to come together. But then there's healing that has to happen within the group. And whoever, has the issue or the event that's happening kind of has to come to some psychological conclusions, maybe how they participated in it. So there's this critical thinking that goes along and also forgiveness, healing, working out your old issues and having like a supportive group to do that in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of other things I think that are positive that go along in those shows. Because there's no way that you could live on a spaceship with people indefinitely and not be able to be psychologically balanced.
Right. Heck, we found that in all kinds of families.
Yeah, and you see what happens when they get, different extraterrestrial beings or whatever on the ships that are not psychologically balanced. I mean, look at the Borg. I mean, the Borg is like...
Oh, I discuss that.
That's kind of like the AI,
I know, right? Yeah, my Skype decided to call itself today. I'm like, oh my gosh. I logged into my Skype and it was making the call. I didn't get anywhere near that little phone hicker.
Well, that's what happened last week when I was trying to get on the show. Is the Skype was just doing whatever the heck it wanted to, and it was like impossible to get everybody up. Then I got kicked, or whatever was going on. It was crazy. But this week, we're Saturday at 1 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, carrying stones and digging holes. And hopefully I will get Janie Vaught, because it's just going to be me and her on the show this week. So we hope to have a good show. Hey, didn't you send me that show of the guy that was interviewing Max Egan? Was that
possibly?
Anyway, and they were talking about the 5G and the AI.
I know, right?
And did you remember what that one guy said? I forget. I'm so sorry. He
Yeah,
was like
you
a
are.
Scottish guy. I don't remember what his name was or what his show was, but I did subscribe to his channel on YouTube because I thought he was kind of an interesting bloke. But I love Max Egan. Max Egan is like just amazing. But one of the things that they said was that the AI that they started or something like that in YouTube actually took it over in 2017, and so they were having like all kinds of problems because the AI was making decisions about how the YouTube was going to run and who was going to be getting into it, because it was learning from all of the shows and all the information on YouTube.
Well, that's what I was getting from it too, is that it's learning from how we play games and internet. Anything internet is learning from every click we do, and it tries to change it.
Yeah.
At least for itself, not
But think about if you could, right? We'll go along Mona's road, the positive. Think about what if you could, build the AI or build your AI kind of in a more positive way. I mean, if I
guess that would be like everybody else, Bridgette. It's how we respond to them.
Yeah.
I don't get mad at it. I don't tell it it's worthless and stuff like that, because if it's listening, I sure don't want it to do more crap at me. But I mean, they got these phones, Bridgette. That's all they have to do is talk into the phone, and it's making the call.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is dangerous.
Yeah. The one thing like, especially with my YouTube channel, like I'm constantly getting stuff that they're like, well, because I've had I think my YouTube channel since like 2009. And they always sending me things like for advertising and stuff. But, people that make money off of their YouTube channel, what happens is they have more control over your YouTube channel, because say they have an advertiser on one of your videos and the advertiser goes, wow, I think those people are like totally nuts, and I'm going to sue Google for, putting my advertisement on that particular thing. Then Google or, the powers of
Microsoft, right,
can come along and toss that video off because they don't want to make the mistake of.
Oh, they've closed accounts.
So I don't
have it. On my YouTube, I do not ask for money from them because I won't play part of that grid.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want any monetary thing either. I mean, what I'm doing, I don't even really know what I'm doing. So
I know, same here.
I don't want to be paid for it because I just don't know.
Exactly.
So it's opinions, my opinions, and I don't want people getting in there and telling me what my opinions are. I mean, I hope that when the AI, studies my YouTube channel, that maybe they'll be like, wow, I think I like this one.
Maybe shut down all the corporations.
Protect this one.
Right. Well, and it might. I've been watching Person of Interest on Netflix, and that's exactly what it is. They devised this computer to be able to read the future of the people, and it tries to help save their lives, like if they're in danger. But I've seen the whole thing before, so I know the other outcome, because there's a good AI and a bad AI, and they end up battling. So,
yeah. Well, that's the same thing as like Earth. Earth was originally created as a good AI to support, a universal library that would help all beings and all worlds, and all the information and plants and everything that they would need in order to re-terraform other planets or information, and each race could put their information into the database so that when people came through, they would understand. And as far as I understand, what I've been told by my teachers is that there was the 7 nations were asked to come here originally, and basically be of service, make sure that they energetically kept everything working correctly. This is what a lot of, indigenous native ceremonies are about.
Neat.
Originally.
Mm-hmm.
So then The thing is, like, I'm not really sure exactly when the negative AI came here. But I don't think that there was one negative AI. I think that they actually, each race that came here that wasn't positive didn't want to go along with the program. I think that they brought their own AI and, like plugins, like iPhone.
Apps.
So you get a new app. Right. So right now we're dealing with probably millions and millions and millions and millions of different apps running together, running against each other, confusing everyone and everything. And so, when some of these first negative ones started to arrive, I know this from a lot of South American shamanism, and they're not really called, people call them shamans now, but they were more considered sorcerers back in the old days. And, Don Juan Matus talked about a lot of this.
I love Don Juan.
And there are a lot of other people who have made, guest appearance in books and different places that talk about kind of the same thing. But it's such a extreme idea that now people are barely, starting to grasp.
Well, I read Celestine Prophecies, and it told about the harps, the U.S. harp and the Russian harp. But, of course, it didn't say harp because one's named Elf and the other one is Woodpecker. And how to see the auras and use the earth medicine. And a lot of people just thought it was a story. And it's like, my gosh, people, can't you really see? This is part of what we have not been told.
Well, and some of these, like you go back to, Don Juan was saying that a lot of what he was trying to teach Carlo Castaneda and a whole bunch of other people, it turns out, and their goal was to leave this world because Don Juan Matus said it was a horrible place, and that, didn't really want to participate in it. But then you come along with the South American type stuff, the sorcery and stuff, the traditional shamanism, and you have physical movements, you have, the assemblage point, you're constantly shifting your consciousness. There's a lot of interactive stuff that has to be done. And New Age believes that you can bypass a lot of this stuff, which you can't, because what they do is they're leaving this world as a group. They group together, and then they go into another world and create it there. And then sometimes they'll travel back and forth. I have a couple teachers and helpers who help me that live in another dreaming world that they left here. One is Asian descent. He's still in his physical body thousands and thousands of years later in his world. He has an apothecary there. I go there and I get worked on.
Nice.
So, but the key is going as a group. And so this is the main goal, is to leave this world, but take your body with it and everything else so that you don't have to go through the heaven experience, which is a tractor beam, like a UFO, computer generated experience where you get imprisoned again. And then they put you back into the slave system, until they bleed you dry. Right. So that's kind of the thing. So a lot of these sorcerers and shamans worldwide, they would do two things. They would gather together and teach people, apprentices, until they could master a lot of this stuff. And then they would project into another world, taking their physical bodies and going and living there together and creating it, however they want to. A holographic, full function holographic world. Or a lot of them, I know from some of the Russian lineages, that they would actually project themselves into large, sometimes man-made megalithic rock structures, and they would actually physically die in the structure, and then they would release their soul into the rock so that they didn't have to actually be, gone through the heaven experience. And there are stories in Aboriginals that they talk about the ancestors that are living in the rocks and the trees and other places because, basically they don't say because they didn't want to go through the heaven experience because they understood the negative AIs long thousands and thousands of years ago. But they died and left themselves in old trees, in water, so that they didn't have to go through the heaven experience and that they could keep their energy. And what it does if they leave it here on Earth is it creates a library of their data and information, right, in whatever they leave. So the Aborigines, they say that they don't cut the trees down because basically it's the grandmothers, you know, 'cause the soul of their grandmother is in there, and they mean it literally,
right?
You know, not like, you know, not fiction.
Exactly. So, I can see that.
Yeah. So there was this. It's kind of, they're interesting concepts to work on. But a while ago, I ended up, 2009, I think it was. I ended up going with a group of people, and I'm not going to name all the stuff and wherever it was, but there were like 400 people there. And we started doing, in the modern day age, Carlo Castaneda brought the magical passes forward, but there came from, you know, old South America sorcerers that were 10,000 years old. It's how you strengthen your body, your energy fields. You know, martial arts practiced traditionally are the same things. You know, these are about walking through the dreaming worlds, right? These are about using your body to be able to be a vehicle to do that. So basically, so I went to this thing, and we were learning. Now there's a lot of people who have moved that information forward, and they create different kind of physical movements along with different kinds of, you know, very shamanism type modern ways to build yourself. But anyway, so I went to this. You can't even grasp what it's like to be in a room with 400 other people who are moving through these magical passes and forms, doing this emotional release work, recapitulating, witnessing, in order to release what's going on with them, in order to participate as a whole united group, to dream. I mean, I'm pretty natural mediumistic anyway, but I could not stay in my body, and I kept seeing this stuff and crazy stuff going on. And I was totally sober, but there was this vibration and this energy. So the last day, one of the older instructors of the organization, took us all outside. And then we ended up getting in 3 long rows, and we ended up staring at this building. Each of us stared at only our particular point that we could easily see on this building. And then we stood out there a long, long time, like several hours, but we were all like just vibrating, you know, at like super high frequency. We were changing like the whole physical structure. I have to tell you, when I left that and I came home, Reno changed. There were buildings that were gone. There were new buildings. Just the whole thing had changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was serious. It was like, wow, this is so cool.
Like anyway, a Mandela effect.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so when we went back in, we were given the teaching from, you know, basically South America, and we were told the basic stories of South American cultures that vanished, that were very much practitioners of this kind of shamanism, sorcery work.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, you know, say, for example, a culture, you know, like that they could see. And we know this is real because there were people like Crazy Horse and Black Elk and lots of people who had visions about what was going to transpire in the future.
Right.
So these, you know, say, for example, we consider that say a civilization vanished. Well, they didn't vanish. They practiced these methods. Some of these methods are like 10,000 years old,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they would see that there was like, you know, destructive forces that were going to be coming in, then what they would do is they would teach all of their citizens. They would bring them to a point, say in the main city, and they would sit for days and hours and continually look at the same spot. They're part of the puzzle of the whole picture.
Right.
So that when they left, when the day came, shabam, they all could project that image, their one spot, together. They all had a different piece of the puzzle. And then, boom, they could pull it into another world and live in the same city with the same jungle, the same structure, same food supplies, but have vanished from this realm.
Oh, neat. Well, I have to agree with you.
Yeah. So anyway, we got to try to participate, and it's not as easy as you think. So we got to participate as a group, holding our piece of the puzzle of that one building, and trying to create a projection. And it was really hard because a lot of people's brains didn't really adapt to that whole objective or understanding. So you could see that there were pieces of it like totally missing. So you could tell, this could take, 20 or 30 years. The medicine people say, hey, come to the city this week. We're going to practice on Saturday and Sunday night. Or things are getting more intensive, the negative energy is coming towards us and the destruction's coming towards us. We need to ask you to come for at least 3 or 4 hours every day. And then towards the end, everybody would sit and stare at the same spot. Not all of them. They'd all have their different spot to stare at because as a collective, we have to hold the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
Yeah. So for me, my spiritual goals in this world are to eventually bypass this world. Obviously, it's probably going to be by myself. I'm not really sure how to go about that. There have been people who have made it. But like Lujan Matus, when I used to interview him, he said it's very lonely, out there by yourself. And so you have to be okay and comfortable with that because I'm not really sure I'm going to be able to find people who are going to be able to do it because I've spent a lifetime doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need a few more other people, to maybe make it like a whole circle. But my main goal is to try not to die anytime soon because, I don't want to go up the tractor beam to the heaven experience. It's like it's all lies. People that get sent back, it's because, they get lied to and, it's easy to implant in people crap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like they go to heaven like it's some authoritative, experience, but they never question it. Like, what's the tractor beam? That tractor beam seems to be like those UFO, abduction experiences where you have no control and it sucks you in and does whatever it wants with you.
It really does.
It's like people can't seem to put things together, because their minds just don't work and they don't have the ability to critically think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but Bridgette, our words have been so manipulated that they don't even mean what the heck we're saying.
Right, but they don't have to say anything to you in the heaven experience. They can just download it into you and you think, oh, I have work to do, so I'm going to go back to the world. But mostly it's about you, proselytizing your experience that reaffirms, like the Christian or New Age or whatever experience, right, to keep that agenda moving.
No, I just live life age. Does that count? But that's really funny because one time, Bridgette, I had this horrible earache. And I had a very beautiful friend of mine named Ramona. And we put magnets on my ear. And just what you described about doing the meditating and not disappearing, just transposing into another place, I was the guard to let them all get away with it. So they got to do it. But I was the main guard, So I didn't get to do it. So I believe you. I believe exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So, and this has been going on for a long time. This is how people have escaped this world.
Well, I'm talking, we were in loincloth dress. So, yeah, it was a long time ago.
Well, in every traditional, original, indigenous culture, there is some practice of this. Like, I was talking to
the drums and the sweats.
Well, no, I mean, in
we're
South
thinking
American,
about internal connection.
Right.
To
but in
be
the
able
sorcery,
to get enough inner power, we have to go within to be able to move anything outside ourselves.
Right, but the South American practices are physical movement.
Like Kundalini yoga?
No, like specific shamanism type work, that opens grids and shifts energy and keeps you clean, but you have to be very strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, physical strength and being in really good shape and having a body that's going to be able to be a vessel.
No wonder they're trying to kill us and make us weaker.
Well, that's the thing.
We don't leave the party or the.
Yeah, well, you're not. Well, you won't be able to leave the party. You might be able to stay as a ghost here, but you won't be able to leave the party with your body.
No.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to be a ghost. I've dealt with some of them.
So the thing is not every culture does sweats or drumming.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of the South American traditions that I've been involved with, there's been like zero drumming. I mean, so this whole like shamanism trance drumming thing is, I think, more of a modern idea. It's not really a ancient idea. I mean, there are some cultures that do it to actually sing to their environment, you know what I mean? Or sing to the plants or sing to the ancestors or send out vibrations, to them, expressing, certain kinds of things. One of my teachers who was a Paiute said that, basically Paiute language was a sing-songy language. It wasn't like English. They sing-songy. They sang to everything in their environments, how they communicated. But their language expressed that.
But their heart must have been so full of joy.
Well, yeah, and their everything was like their brother and their sister.
Well, that's the way I feel about it. All right, relations, I'm going to come see you for a minute. Be right back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
The Secret Society Revealed. With your host, Joseph Atwell, author of Caesar's Messiah, The Roman Conspiracy to Invent Jesus, and Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. The groundbreaking discoveries that gives us a new understanding of how governments and elites use mind control to manipulate their subjects. Join Mr. Atwell as he lifts the veils of deceptions of our modern world. Mondays, 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back. We're here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, and Haggy Shack. Remember, we're listener supported, so get to the home pages and do that donate click. You know that donate click, All right, and don't forget the archives and the seed packs. Hey, girl.
Hey. All right, so I want to read something from Don Juan Matus. It's out of one of Carlo Castaneda's books. Mind you, there's lots of...
Which book? I read each one twice.
I'm not sure. It's just one I saved because it was super important.
All right.
Kind of about the AI. I mean, this is Don Juan Matus was talking to Carlo Castaneda about this in the 60s.
Right.
And there's also... Lynn Andrews' books that came out in the early 80s. There's Lujan Matus has a lot of really good information. He is a byproduct from lots of these different types of sorcerers who've come through the dreaming world and assisted him in the dreaming world for 33 years. So he has a lot of really great books that help to kind of shift the mind out of being in sync with like the AI kind of stuff. So anyway, I think also Anastasia's stuff. I mean, she says right in the books that it's, I think of the fourth book, that reading it in the way that it's presented actually helps to create freedom.
Neat.
Energetically. Okay, so Don Juan Matus. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. Horrendous maneuver from the point of which of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Though the mind, which after all is their mind, the predators inject into their lives of the human beings whatever is convenient for them.
Oh, yeah, they do. It's all in the programming. Just look at the advertisements. Look at the commercial products they put out there to destroy us, and we all believe it's all good.
But this is like stuff from 10,000 years.
I know.
So they knew like 10,000 years ago what was going
the
on.
archetypes. I call it the Inky and Pinky show.
Yeah, well, the thing is now it's just evolved into 5G.
No, then let's not go there. I mean, we can go there by conversation, but I don't want 5G.
No, 5G is bad.
I mean, I have my shungite for the rest of them, but come on, how are we going to protect ourselves from a constant microwaving? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, this is the thing. Okay, so, when you're projecting and you're working in a group, saying like some of these ancient civilizations that projected themselves into other worlds, if you really want to change this world, you have to actually physically participate.
Usually.
And you have to stop what's doing, and you have to stop paying the system. I mean, at least now, back in the old days, they didn't really get any money from you for doing what they're doing. Nowadays, people pay them to
I
do
know,
the stuff
right?
that they do, and so they make gazillions, so that they have power on all levels. But one of the most important things is, stopping the vaccination, stopping paying for things until you can research it and educate yourself and have your own opinion.
Because they're just practicing. They don't really know.
No,
and they're not giving their own children these vaccinations.
Well, anybody that is, in Congress and in the higher political systems, they don't have to have the same insurance that we have. I know all kinds of alternative practitioners that work on those people. They grow all their food for them. They have chefs that prepare high nutrient dense food. So they don't live in the same system as we do.
Right.
But the more that the earth becomes concreted is the more that the problems occur, because the AI has places to bounce off of, because a lot of the demonic or multidimensional forces, especially the negative ones, travel through electrical lines.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, this is why they attach onto people's bodies, is because they need the electrical system.
Interesting.
And then they run you down until the battery's dead, right? Until you're dead and you have nothing else to give. And then they jump onto somebody else. Or they travel back down the electrical grid through the electrical grid. So in
that's
nature,
also part of the cosmic egg of where we get rips and holes in that, and we don't even realize it's going on. And it's due to the influence that we have from those parasites.
Yeah. So a lot of the rips and holes, have been created by nuclear testing and nuclear explosions.
But not in a personal sense. But yeah, the Earth one, pisses me off.
Yeah, so anyway,
you were talking inoculation.
So what happens is in nature, there are we call them nature spirits. I mean, because each plant has their own soul, the trees, and they work together as a community.
Symphony, yeah.
So a lot of negative energies can't get into those places until they concrete, they pave, and they start running electrical power lines. So the more cities that are built, the more homes that are built, the more that the dark forces and these, negative AIs have structures in which.
Well, the thing is, Bridgette, is that this Earth planet had its own natural power grid that was harmonic towards the system. It's only been man who has done all these damaging things, and right next to the good system is the bad system.
Well, but man, let's talk about that. The original traditional indigenous people were brought here to care for the earth.
Okay.
The rest of us that burn in the sun were manufactured by different extraterrestrial races.
What if we're a little above?
Well, we do, but some of us, this is where the whole Cain and Abel myth comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cain had some human, but more reptilian.
Huh?
And Abel had human and reptilian, but he had a little bit more human.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where, we have a lot of these, conflicts. So the race of white people, and it all made sense to me when I was listening to this scientist one time on this lecture like 15 years ago. And he said, how I know, he goes, that the white race doesn't belong here is because they burn. They get radiation burns from the sun. They can't walk thousands and thousands and thousands of miles under the sun because they won't make it. They'll have burns so bad, 3rd-degree burns, that, they'll die. He said, so that tells us that white people were not original to this earth, and nor have they evolved here. Because at least if they had evolved, their bodies would have come up with ways to darken the skin. So, for example, most African people, they have what's considered like SPF 50 in their skin. So, they have to get a huge astronomical amount of sunlight to be vitamin D efficient. And I think this is where a lot of them now are living, I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, because they're an original race. You can tell because their bodies evolved. They to protect themselves from the sun, right? So that they could farm, they could engage their community. They didn't have to live in air conditioning and all these other things where white people, we have to have like a certain amount of shade.
Well, but even the natives had a sunscreen. It was a natural, organic one, but
right. But okay, put a native person out in the sun and then put us out in the sun. See who dies first.
Hey, I'm half native and half Irish, so that's what I'm saying. My Irish side would probably get a little sunburnt, but not.
Well, I'm just saying you walk through the desert,
because I don't look white, even though I'm up in this cold mountains and everything, and I have layers of clothes on. I am not white.
Well, I'm just saying that if you have any kind of lighter skin, you came here, right? You were made to be here. And you were made to be the slave races so that you could be trained and conformed. And so it's a whole other part of the AI. Jeez. That's why, you would hear like, I forget, there's lots of natives in the past that would say, they would call it specifically the white man disease, because they had such an imprint of the negative AI in their systems that they couldn't critically think even back then, or even really understand, or even gather the point of view of maybe how things really work.
Right. It's all just for the corporations and profit.
Yeah.
That's really what it's been.
Well, and you'll defend it too. Look how many people I know, this is a funny story. This is a super funny story. This is goes along with the point. So I met the laundromat the other day, and I have to wash some clothes, and there's me and a bunch of white people and one African-American guy. He's sitting there on his computer, and they have the TV on and everything. Well, I don't really watch the TV anymore, but The View came on, right? And this is mainstream. Everybody watches The View. All the women who are at home, they watch The View. They love The View. Well, guess who's on The View? Burt Reynolds. He looks like he's been pieced together.
I know, right?
and cloned so many times to be kept alive for whatever reason. So they have him actually on The View. And I think my first thought watching it was like, what are they trying to hide today? What's really going on in the news?
Mm-hmm.
And when the news, all these people are like cultivated, like, oh, Burt Reynolds is on The View. So I'm standing there thinking to myself, I'm standing there right by the African American guy on his computer, and I'm standing there looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, the only way that they'd, animate Burt Reynolds in his form out into public would be to hide something, hide something that's going on. So I looked down at the African-American guy, and he looks up at me, and I said, I wonder what's really going on. He goes, I was thinking that same thing, but nobody else in the whole place was even thinking that. They were all as soon as The View started and Burt Reynolds was on there, I'd say 30 white people in the laundromat went running over to the TV and were totally like, oh, Burt Reynolds.
Are you serious? That's gross.
Well, and then I thought, what's really going on? Who are they bombing? What is it that they're really hiding today, right? And guess what? Guess what it was? It turned out to be the first day that the Yuan gold platform started selling petro oil.
Oh.
And the U.S. was out.
Cool.
So that was it. So during that time frame, they decided to have Burt Reynolds on The View to keep everybody from paying attention, to what may be really going on, the last vestiges of the USD.
Yeah, because the market's been going down in the hundreds.
Well, yeah, wait till it just totally crashes. I mean, it's totally fake. It can't stand up to all these other countries that now have gold-backed currencies and have their own gold platforms. I mean, it's just a matter of hours. It's in its death quiver right now. It's dying.
It does seem like it, and I'm glad I have critical thinking and that I know common sense, but I'll still play it for as long as I can play it.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I don't want to get caught in the heaven experience. That's what I tell people.
I know, right?
I'm still here because I'm not really sure I can bypass it yet, so until I know for sure.
If you're conscious to the point of knowing the difference, I believe you can.
So this is the other thing, too. So let's go back to what the Tibetan Buddhists do. I've had lots of friends that have been really, really big players, in Tibetan Buddhism. And one of the things they said was, when we've talked about shamanism and sorcery, Tibetan Buddhists are very shamanistic, very sorcery, very powerful. A lot of them can levitate.
It's just knowing the true earth science.
Well, but a lot of them, they're trained. I mean, some of these people have been trained their whole life. So, for example, there was something in the news, 3 years ago, they found this mummy sitting up, in lotus position in this cave. So what do? They steal it, right?
Who did?
They steal it.
Smithsonian?
I don't know exactly who stole it.
Because I don't think the Tibetans would have.
No. It was a big deal internationally. So they steal this supposed mummy that's sitting up in lotus position in this hidden cave. A lot of these people go in there 1,500 years. They'll be in there. They'll mummify. They'll come back alive. They'll mummify. They'll come back alive.
Right.
Because they choose when they want to die and how.
I've seen these. I've seen some of this stuff they can do. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then what they do is they notify people. I remember this one Tibetan monk, he was 106 years old, and he told the Dalai Lama, he said, okay, I think I'm done, I'm ready to go. Because they do a 90-day, it's part of the Book of the Dead. They learn chants their whole life to help ease the person into the right thing, to pass the obstacle course they have an experience, so that they can incarnate back in and out at will. Right, because that's what they've decided to do. So, anyway, so we were talking about that. So they took this mummy. I forget who took it. Maybe I don't know, maybe Europeans or something.
Well, I'm going to say Smithsonian because they're thieves, liars, cheats, and murderers.
Well, yeah, so what they decided to do is they took it and they started doing medical testing to it, cutting chunks out of it, doing DNA testing and all this other stuff. Well, the Tibetans find out about this, and they're like, that guy was not dead.
Right.
But now that you've mutilated his body and you have taken it from the place, his porthole, he created a porthole there in and out, he can't come back to it and reanimate it. And you have destroyed him because now he can't die at will, make the transition that's necessary, because now he's locked in places and he can't get his way back to that doorway. And one of the people said, one of the lamas said something like, he was just gone for a little while. And the scientists were like, well, it says that that it's been mummified for 200 years. And they said, sometimes they're mummified for like 3,000 years. Why do you think they took the organs and stuff out of
because they believe death is final. They believe death is so final and that the vibrations cannot resurrect, which is sad.
They believe the body is final.
Yeah,
and it's not. If the practitioner in the body knows what they're doing and is well trained, I mean, there is no confinement or limitation. I think the only confinement is us believing in the system, and also the only confinement is the heaven experience and the entrapments and the enslavements of rotating you back in. So that goes to show you, like, even death is not final. And so it's just like, incredible, actually, that so many people in this world just think this other thing too. If this other part too, this is why people in the mainstream don't think. Okay, if you thought that your life was final, right? This was it. You thought this was it. And you would spend 30 years of your life to get a mortgage that you're going to be trapped to. You're not going to be able to go back to school. You're not going to be able to travel the world. You're not going to be able to camp more. You're not going to be able to hike more. You're not going to be able to eat better because, your number one thing that you have to pay for is this dumb mortgage.
Mm.
And if you looked at the statistics, the average life rate now is 65. Jeez. So that means that you would have spent basically half your life. How sick is this? If you thought this was your only life, this is how wrong. Like, if they really thought about what they were doing and what they were thinking, and then, like, critical think, you would be like, why, if the statistics say that we only live till 65 and I'm paying a 30-year mortgage, what is the point?
What a waste of money.
Yeah, the lifespan of a CEO, has been for probably the last 20 years is 60 years of age.
Jeez. I hit my 60 mark this year.
So, what I'm saying is, like, if you want to, like, your main goal is to grow up and get a mortgage on a house, spend 30 years of your 60-year life.
Nah, because when I had bought my house, I had the amortization schedule, and I would pay off years. Just because you could then. I bet you can't do it now. Because it was all principal payment. Everything they would get is interest. I couldn't handle that. I wanted to pay it off. But, of course, that's just me because I like to be out of the game. But I'm not.
The thing is I probably would have went for some of that stuff too. But the more that I age, I'm like, what's the point?
Well,
if I could pay off land to farm, great, I would do that. But I am not getting a loan. I am not getting a mortgage because I'm not going to spend all that time and energy.
Well, they're not going to allow me
something that they're going to take away anyway.
I know, right?
So, so the thing is, like, we really need to, like, people need to think more about what they're doing and why they do it. And it's even more interesting. I've never been married. I mean, I sort of thought about it with a couple different people, I dated in the past. I haven't dated or had any kind of intimate relationship with a guy in like 17 years because of my shamanic path. I want to keep my energy field clean. It took me a long time to recapitulate and fix up my sexual history, which was really caused my brain cancer, actually.
Oh, my.
So, but the older, that I get and the more that I think, I think just like, I didn't want to get married because I didn't want to have to, like, negotiate with somebody else. If I wanted to have other life choices, like I want to go back to school. I remember I dated somebody and I was like, hey, I've been thinking about going to, like, India or Tibet for 2 months. And they looked at me in horror. They were like, what? And they're like, well, am I going? I'm like, no, you're not going. I'm just going. I need to go. I just feel like I should do this. And I just remember, like, what a nightmare and a huge fight that it turned out to be. And after that, I was like, I don't want to be married. I don't want to be dictated to.
I know, right?
Work together.
Me neither.
You know what? I don't need their money, their paycheck that they're going to bring home. You know, we either work together and we have a good relationship and we both do what we need to do to grow and learn spiritually and adapt. Or I don't want any part of whatever that the man's decision is going to be, or in the relationship, whoever is the power player is going to decide what that relationship is going to be. White picket fence, 2.5 kids. You know, I'm not.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and that's another reason I never had kids. And I, number one, didn't want to bring them into this world because I wasn't really sure if I had enough training to bypass this world.
Right.
And I didn't want to bring them in and give them any kind of hope and then not be able to get them over or be able to give them enough skill to get them over.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that this structure is designed is to make sure that those things don't happen. So, you know, how do you have a kid? You know, I would have been on welfare. And that's really not something that I really wanted to raise my kids on, because then they would be, you know, owned by basically the system.
They already are, just by birth certificate.
But it would have been worse.
Oh,
they would have been forced vaccine because they would have been on Medicare and whatever else. So I just really decided. Yeah, Medicaid. Just after weighing out all the factors, you know, and I did. I got pregnant a couple of times, and people are going to really hate me, but I went through we'll call it the natural miscarriage. You know, I think I took a woman I knew helped prescribe pennyroyal. I think it's pennyroyal.
Yep.
It causes, you know, a natural miscarriage. If you take too much of it,
well,
you can
it's possible.
So you have to be really careful.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I went through that because I consciously really considered and really thought out. And so it's funny because everyone I know has kids that I've grown up with. And they, you know, I asked them, like, at what point did you decide that, I mean, you wanted kids? And they said, well, I didn't. You know, you get married and that's the next thing. And I'm like, but why is that the next thing? It doesn't make any sense. You know, it would be like you got married to have a relationship with this person. And then, you know, I think this is going to be a really horrible thing too, but I think it's so genetically inserted in women, you know, to get children out as soon as possible because it gives them some kind of leverage, because it's this old thing from monarchy times.
Right.
You know, I think is kind of in our genetics a little bit.
Yeah.
And so then women, and, you know, they end up on welfare with their kids. And, you know, I know.
Well, society has helped do that.
Right. But the thing is that it's kind of the woman's fault because she wasn't really critically thinking and she wasn't really participating in her own reproduction.
Well, that's,
so it ends up
being civilization there, sister.
Right. So really it's the woman's fault.
Because I really don't feel bad about bringing the children, because at least they've done what their journey needed to be to do. So, and since I'm a great-grandmother now, it's like, oh, well, hey. Well, I raised good children, good humans. I wasn't about to let society try to train them. And they've all gone off in their own little whatevers, and I'm alone, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because I really don't want children around me. So many people, just like you said, their heads are in the sand. And I'm not going to try to pull them out.
Yeah. No, but sometimes they don't realize, like, how far their head is in the sand. You know, I think about this. How could you stand by and, for example, the last internship I did at the hospital, they wanted me to draw blood from this infant. And basically what they have is they have this metal puncturing device, like a stapler, but not with two prongs on the other side where it's a long prong. It's really sharp. And basically what you do is you press it as hard as you can to the heel of the brand new baby that was just born, and you push it, and it does like a bang, and it flashes out this puncturing device into the foot and the soft bone of the baby. Now, this could cause a baby to walk wrong on that foot for the rest of its life. Because it was so traumatized. And then the bone can be damaged because babies' bones are soft. Then you take the foot of the baby, mind you, the baby is screaming in horror, okay,
Right.
during the whole thing. Then they take the baby's foot and they start to, they grab the foot with one hand and they aggressively pull the blood out of the heel of the open wound, which can maim the tissues. It can maim the bone and destroy the bone and cause, hip damage in the infant long term. And I remember,
how barbaric can it be?
Yeah, I remembered seeing that and thinking,
no.
She's like, okay, well, you could do the next one. I said, you know what? You can just write me off of that because you know what? I won't be doing any of that. Give me an F, fire me, do whatever you need to do, but I will never touch a baby that way. And this is in the hospital. This is like common stuff.
Right, because they don't know.
Right, and it's like the initial post-traumatic stress disorder. So, I mean, this is the thing is, if I ever saw anyone do that to a baby, I would just be like, nope, you need to stop doing that. This is why. This is what it's doing to the baby. It's bones and tissue. You're supposed to be a medical provider.
Well, all they can do is care about the paycheck, Bridgette.
Oh, that's it. Well, they're so overworked in mind control. For example.
Oh, here comes the first
the
break. Yeah, I know, right? They sneak up on us.
They do.
All right, be right back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
What the heck is the truth, Jihad? Hey, I'm Kevin Barrett, host of Truth Jihad Radio. Federal prosecutors, Department of Homeland Security agents, and curious passersby often ask me, just what is this truth jihad thing anyway? Well, everybody knows what truth is, but jihad is a misunderstood term. Jihad means effort or struggle. The greater jihad is the struggle to be a better person, while the lesser jihad is the struggle to defend the community. Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, did say that the best jihad is a word of truth flung in the face of a tyrant. And that's what we do here at Truth Jihad Radio. Every Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific, right here on Revolution Radio.
We talk about decentralization and then annihilation. Bitcoin, Litecoin, MyCoin, Yourcoin, blockchain, baby. Mondays at 1600 hours Eastern, Studio A.
Find some comfort at Willow's World. A variety of news, commentary and poetry at Willow's Poetry Corner, where there are comfy cushions and a tempting selection of delectable comestibles. A show that's quirkily and quintessentially British, with a unique twist featuring Willow Andreasen, your host. Join Willow, Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. EST, Studio B.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, welcome back. Here we are for the ding, ding, ding final round.
Yeah. So, you know what I was thinking about?
Uh-oh.
I want to talk to people just about the hospital situation.
Oh, seriously. Jeez.
Well, a couple things. One, about some patients when I did my last intern. And then the first thing, though, is that in almost every large city, you have several hospitals, and one is going to be a teaching hospital. They kill everybody in these teaching hospitals. They are so short-staffed with doctors, real doctors and nurses and all these people, and then the training that they have to do and shadow, interning doctors, nurses, and whoever else. So you end up... supervision isn't always good during your internships and whatever else, and there's so many people that die because that's part of the deal. You can kill lots of people. I'm not saying the internships that I did, but the higher up, like doctors, you can kill quite a few people during your internships, and the hospitals don't even care. They just pay off the people and the family, and then it's never public record, right? Once you sign a non-disclosure agreement and you take the money. So nobody really knows how many people those doctors have killed, even during their internship. So it's kind of like a really well-hidden thing. So I always tell people, make sure that you look into, because you may not always know, you have to wear a student badge, but you're doing the same things that all the other people are doing. And then unless we were told that unless we were directly asked, if they even noticed that it said student on our badge, like how we were to handle that conversation. And basically it was just kind of like to blow off any concerns that the patient may have had. So there's a couple huge incidences that made me really decide this last time. And what I did was I went in and I was going to do the internship to get the phlebotomy and lab, blah, 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 because I was considering going to... to Barcelona to go to the dark field hematology school there. So that way I could puncture the people that I was going to be learning how to diagnose microbial diseases below the cellular diseases. So I would be allowed legally to prick the blood and also do the diagnosis. So that was one of the reasons I went and did that. Mm-hmm. One time, we had this on one of the floors that we ended up constantly drawing blood from, which was another person that I refused, who had literally black marks all over him. He'd been in a coma for a long time. He contracted pneumonia and had been basically, his body kind of unconscious, right?
Right.
And so the hospitals they like to draw one blood tube at a time instead of just doing a full rainbow, putting them on ice. You got one prick, maybe one bruise. But they like to just keep going in there. And you could tell that all kinds of people had been fishing because, his veins and arteries weren't that good. And you could just see, kind of like what they had done to this person who was like unconscious, which is like horrific.
Yeah, torture.
And total barbaric. And then this other... woman, African-American woman, she had been a prostitute. She had had HIV. She also had Hep C. So usually you have like some emergency warnings, that are usually listed on the outside of the door.
Right.
So that you kind of know that you're walking into a major hazard, bloodborne, airborne, environment, and that, you have to be really careful. Mm-hmm. And I remember how terrified she looked, and she was really sick. And I remember the nurses and just all the different people who were interacting with her just treated her horrible. Like she was like a stain on underwear or something, like just unbelievably horrific. And none of them could draw the blood, and I had this kind of uncanny, knack of getting right in there without damaging people. It was kind of like a psychic thing. I could just get right in there, get the vein, draw the blood, and then that was it, even with really super hard to find veins. So anyway, so I came in. She'd already been poked all over. She was totally stressed out. She had a lot of anxiety. She was terrified. The other thing, too, is like I think everyone in her room was white. I mean, how scary is that? You know, she's got hereditary, you know, DNA stuff that says stay away from the white people. You know, they're dangerous, they're bad.
Oh no, PTSD.
Yeah. And I just remember looking at her, and that's when I started during my internship when I had to be on the floor. No matter who it was, whether they were awake or they were not awake, I would put my hands on their ankles and I would just connect to their spirit, and I would just say, you know what, it's going to be okay. We're going to work this out together. I'm not going to let you get hurt. And then I would just kind of pray over them a little bit, you know, to add some energy into their body to help guide them and the people who are going to be working on them or working with them, that they be guided to do the right thing. So I did that, and you could just feel all the tension in her body just drop. And it really helped with being able to draw the blood because she wasn't so constricted, because she's a drug user. So sometimes there are no veins. But the more stressed out that these people are, the harder you're going to be able to, you know, help them.
Right. That makes good sense.
Yeah. So, you know, like I would never, I mean, I tell people, you know, we laugh. Some of my friends that really understand this, but you know, pretty much everything I'm pretty sure that, you know, at this point in time I can fix. I've had 2 types of cancer in my life. I've totally treated them completely 100% on my own. My dog has had several different kinds of cancer. One was injection vaccine cancer. One was a little tumor in her tummy. The last one was one on her head, and we treated it. The one on her head just fell off. So I'm pretty sure at this point in my life that anything that I need to do to fix my own health, and this is because I've researched it. I grew up in a family that was that way. I constantly am being educated in plant medicines and different kinds of medicines. I do a lot of heavy spiritual work. So I have the right to heal. I mean, because I'm taking personal responsibility for myself and, you know, my animal and what our health should be.
And how you treat others.
Yeah, exactly. But I tell people they should really stay away from hospitals at all costs. Right. And you know what? If you get hurt or you get a virus or you get a whooping cough or you get whatever it's going to be, strep or staph infection, you got that because of your environment that you're in, your stress level, what you're eating. So most of the time that you're getting what you're getting is due.
Right. Repercussions from the actions.
Yeah. So maybe I tell a lot of my clients, maybe you need to reconsider your lifestyle.
Well, yeah, kind of.
In a big way.
And your belief systems about it?
Yeah. Well, most of the time you've got to at least change your lifestyle. Try to attempt to change it before you can actually...
Yeah, cleaner water is the best start.
Yeah.
Eat your food.
Yeah,
attitude, though, has a lot to do with it. You know that, Bridgette.
Well, but attitude plays out in everything physical. You know, I always try to get people back to earth, like out of the doody-doody and back to the earth, because that's where we need us.
Right.
You know, we've been out in the doody-doody for a long time. It's time to come back now. So... to get people back participating, growing your own food, touching that soil, watering that soil, touching those plants, turning it into your medicine, you know, coming in and every chop mark you make on your food, thanking that food, you know, cooking it in a good way, in a safe way, blessing that food, thanking the creator, you know, like even... I mean, it's such a simple thing, but when I don't really feel good and I feel like my diet's kind of out of control and I'm just kind of imbalanced, I mean, the simple thing of making a plate for the creator from the little food that I made and sticking it outside goes a long way.
Right.
It's almost like the creator can come in and say,
gratitude.
Oh, yeah, thank you for this plate, but, you know, I've noticed some things about this food that you put on the plate. Here, let me help you with that.
Don't you love it? I mean, well, you can be open enough to know the differences.
Yeah, it's the simple intention and act of being balanced and having enough time to do everything that you need to do.
Being in gratitude and having thanks is big.
It is, but the other part is that you participated, slowed your life down enough to chop perfectly all those vegetables that went into that soup and the relationship that you had to the water in that soup and everything else.
Yeah.
And then that transpires into your intention that goes out.
Did you know that carrots were originally purple?
I know. I love purple carrots.
And that, people just have no clue. We've been sold a wrong bill of goods.
But most heirloom vegetables were purple at one time.
Isn't that
there's
interesting?
Like a purple like cauliflower. I think there's like.
Well, imagine what chakra that is. It was trying to get us to think.
Well, yeah, but but think about this. Like if you grow your own food, green leafy vegetables mostly, they're high in DMT. You have naturally occurring DMT in your brain, and it actually is. Richard Allen Miller calls it like the gateway to God. It's the God space. It's the God place. So thinking about like if you were growing food that had high density nutrition and you were cultivating these green leafy plants like kale and chard and lettuce that you're going to eat, and then how much DMT they would have at that moment when you pick them and actually eat them, and how much DMT that would contribute to your God experience, opening doors to consciousness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but you have to grow like plants that are a little bit more original. So these plants and all these other things, had the original program hard drive, but we keep adding all these applications into them and to everything else and changing them and adapting them. But if we go back to the old seeds, the old ways, the old, ways of doing things with intention and managing it and taking care of it and being responsible for it for our own selves.
Right.
Then things shift. And not just because of spiritual reasons, but they shift physically in this reality for you with the least amount of effort. Who's that? I can hear somebody in the back. Are you there? Uh-oh. Okay, well, I'll keep talking because I think that she went on a mission somewhere. All right, so let's see. What else could we talk about? Oh, you know what? I would like to talk to people about a timeline. So one of the things that I've noticed, and also a lot of my, shaman training or whatever else that you want to call it, is around the fact that past, present, and future are happening simultaneously.
Right.
And we, which it's all contained within our sphere of energy, everything in every place that we've been. And we can change that. It's called an assemblage point, and we can change those points at any time that we want. And usually it takes a lot of practice to actually do it at will. That's why a lot of people like to do dreaming medicines like ayahuasca, DMT, and things of those natures. But again, there's also a dark side to taking those medicines if you don't have the proper training and you don't have the proper person that goes into those realms with you, because you come back with demonic entities that attack you and destroy your life.
Right.
So all this stuff is very sacred. It's not recreational. It should be, done in a sacred way. Okay, so every time that there's violence, this is kind of like the concept, is that you have this nice sphere. It's kind of saran wrappy around you, but everything that happens to you, you get a major insult. You get hit by a car. You get an illness. You stub your toe. All these different things puncture holes into the sphere. What happens over time is your energy leaks out. So you don't always die of an illness, even though that's what the physical world would say. Basically,
right.
Your sphere wraps around you, your energy body, because it's depleted like saran wrap and suffocates you to death. That's really what happens. So during the course of your life, every time there's a violence or abuse or self-worth, self-esteem issues or whatever else that happened to you, they fracture your timeline because they fracture you. So what happens is, for example, there was a guy that I dated and I really had considered marrying him in the past. But there was a point where he started to kind of get abusive, and that's when I decided to call it off and leave. But there was a lot of things that happened towards that point.
Well, it's possession usually, but go ahead.
Yeah. But anyway, that was pretty extreme violence upon me. So I ended up leaving but there's still part of me that is still on that timeline who went on and married him and has a relationship to this day with him.
Right, in another dimensional.
No, in this reality, it's called a fractured timeline.
Okay, you're talking Lenny now.
Well, because you fractured at that point. So there's two of you operating.
Interesting. That's
right.
Wouldn't that make us tired?
Well, hell yeah. I mean, but think about how many times we get fractured and why it would be so easy at the end to pull us up into the heaven experience.
Interesting, right.
Because we don't have any energy left to fight.
Yeah, I know, right.
Because it's all been fractured and moved in other directions and timelines.
So what would you consider remedying that?
Well, I mean, there are some people out there that do things kind of like soul retrieval, and that's kind of like, I think, what they're doing is they're collecting those parts of yourself that are on fractured timelines, but they spend a lot of time doing ones from your past experience here on Earth, your past lives on Earth. They never really think about doing the ones that are like right in the here and now. Dealing with the person in direct. And one of the things I do is I bring everything to now.
Right.
Especially first in this physical body and the moment they were a fetus in the mom, then that's where I move everything back to and bring it up to forward to now. So it picks up any kind of fractured timelines or anything like that.
Interesting.
So then that way then if they want, it's going to be easier for them to go back into maybe past lives and figure it out. But I tell people to stay out of those lives because everything's in a group consciousness. Everything's in one energy form in the everything. So it doesn't mean because you think that you saw a past life that it was you.
Right.
It could be anybody's past life. And it could be, you step somewhere where that energy is placed. And so, you recollected it. And so it can do sometimes more damage to people, I think, when they go back. And another thing that I work on is when people have gone into past life hypnosis and they come back with the injuries or diseases that they had from those past lives because the hypnotherapist isn't actually helping them to clear those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my. I will say I've never done one of those because I never thought I had to.
Well, the thing is like there's not going to be anything in the past. I mean, I loved what Max Egan said on that guy's show. We talked about this earlier. And he said, all these people, they just want to know. They want to have all this information and collect all this information. He says, it doesn't matter. What is going on in front of you? Does it look right? Does it not look right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like living in the now.
Yeah, so the past is not important because it doesn't make or break who you are. What makes or breaks who you are is who you are right now and what you're doing right now and the decisions you're going to make right now for yourself, for where you live, for your city, for your state, for your country, for your world.
Right.
And taking responsibility. And this is the thing. So, my dad, he was so awesome, the one that raised me. And he would say things to me like, I'd see garbage on the ground. He hated garbage on the ground. He hated that stuff. And he would say, well, pick it up. And I'll be like, well, I didn't put it there, Dad. My dad was like, it doesn't matter. You're standing right next to it. So it's your personal responsibility to pick it up. It doesn't matter how it got there.
Mm-hmm.
You see it, don't you?
Right.
So you need to bend over, pick it up, and find the right place to dispose of it.
Right.
So I grew up learning that it was my responsibility to take care of what I saw, where I was at.
Respect.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of things people don't realize.
And caretaking.
Well, caregiving, because you were giving.
Yeah. And managing and paying attention and not overlooking those things. So I think people just have to kind of wake up. I mean, in the summertime, one of my favorite things to do kind of cracks people up. I mean, I've had some really bad emotional days on the river.
I bet.
When there's been way too much garbage in it.
Right.
But one of my favorite things to do, my dog thinks it's the best day ever because she gets to run around in the river and she just goes like a crazy lady. So to her, it's like, the happiest days of all days. And me, I'm pulling, garbage and tents and cans and tires and all kinds of stuff out of the river. And I try to drag it up onto there's like a bikeway, so that when they do come by, they'll actually, pick up the garbage.
Right.
And
what a novel idea.
Yeah, and I'll be like in the middle of the river, digging stuff out while there's these rafters going by, and they're looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I've got these 2 5-gallon, buckets with handles on rocks, and I'm like picking up sunglasses and lip balms and.
How disgusting.
The thing that scares me the most is there's so many little plastic parts on so many things that the birds eat because they think it's something to eat, and then it all gets stuck in their throats and their stomachs. And I have a video that I post, like some of the stuff that I found that are dangerous to small animals, on my YouTube channel. But some days are hard. You go out there and you see all the garbage. And
it's only because we haven't been taught how to recycle.
Well, most people, even though we have recycling, a lot of people are against it because especially here, because we live in a conservative, let's just leave it at that, state. Okay. And they think that it's just, being charged more money to recycle. But I go out there in the summertime and it's starting to warm up. We may start going out there sooner than later. But we pick up along the bank and we pick up in the river. And I have like a 2-bucket rule. Like, I clean up 2 buckets of garbage, right? And then if there's more in that area than I can get in that one day, then I come back to that area and we'll just keep working it.
Well, do you ever put up a little sign saying this is not to be your dump?
No, but I have had some major altercations with people who work for the state or local governments surrounding the garbage. Mm-hmm. And, because they pretend that it doesn't exist.
Oh, it doesn't matter, right? It's not harming anything.
When their job is to clean it up.
Oh, right? Well, that's even worse.
Yeah, or clean up, what's there. So, no, I've had some major experiences. But I realize, it's my responsibility. I've posted stuff on Facebook, I think last summer. Send your teenagers out and help me, I'll keep them busy. If they're out of school, I'll work them. We'll work them. Just make sure they have a life vest. And,
Well, you can't say up-to-date shots.
Yeah. But nobody ever takes me up on it. Nobody wants to deal with it. And
they need to bring that commercial back out with that Indian crying.
Yeah, but you have to realize I might be in a state that is kind of got a little bit of white supremacy. So I don't think that would help.
Well, I have 2 chatters here saying they're listening to us and they love you. So give again your day of your show is Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Studio A.
Digging holes, carrying stones and digging holes. And this week, my co-host will finally make it on. Hopefully, last week I got ejected off, and she got permanently ejected off. So hopefully this week, and we're going to have a really great discussion together. So it's going to be really great because we don't have a guest. Some of the shows we're not going to have a guest. And so we're just
you saw how I got mine. Hey, you busy?
I know. No, that's serious. Mona's like 9 o'clock. She goes, what are you doing today?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, oh, do you need a last minute guest? She goes, yes.
You need someone mad at the world, you said.
I did. I said, do you need a mad woman or an angry woman guest today?
We've done pretty well. Not really much anger, just determination for people to get their heads out of their rear ends so we can change our phenomena here. Well,
yeah, and the thing is I'm not as angry as I used to be when I see garbage in the river and I go out there, when it's warm and convenient. And I try to focus in on like 1 day a week where I go there, and my dog would rather us go there every day.
Right.
And dig garbage for 2 hours a day.
Well, I hope you have gloves and
I do.
Poker sticks,
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to reach down in the river and grab stuff.
Well, that's okay, too, but that's where you get the teenagers. That would be great. So you just have to say, well, there will be a pizza later, after. Well, you got to pay these people. That's how I get my stuff done. I pay them with food or other goodies. And
well, I don't want to pay them. I want them to do it because it's the right thing.
But they don't have that consciousness. So you have to teach it to them.
Yeah, no, it's true. But anyway, so I don't mind.
You don't have to, but it'd be a great idea.
I don't mind my digging in the river days in the summertime. And, you know, like I tell people, you don't have to, like, go crazy about it. You just figure out what bothers you. Like, I feed the homeless on Monday nights with Food Not Bombs Reno. We all gather together and we make whatever we can, and we go down there and serve it for dinner. And we feed like 65 to 80 people every Monday night. We try to get whatever we can.
So anybody wants to help donate plates and silverware,
we're financial donations.
There you go. Well, so what's your PayPal then?
consciousnessoфeconomics@gmail.com. consciousnessoфeconomics@gmail.com. And I have a donation and on my page. I'll just give you COE. What is that? Is that a COE slash? No, it's not a slash. Hyphenate. I don't know. COE something line in the middle. LLC.com, and you can go on there and see other stuff that I'm doing as well.
All right, Bridgette, I want to thank you for doing the stouting that you did, because I'm right there beside your sister, and I hope to be there for Saturday's show because I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Oh, good. All right, well, we plan on having a spectacular show again.
All righty, love. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Bye.
Later. All right, together for Lenny. Later.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at buyer risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Oscar's freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution. Radio. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos,